Hey everybody, welcome or welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we're going to be doing the eyeshadow palette tag. This tag has been going around YouTube for quite some time now, and I wanted to film one for a while, but I just always end up filming something else. So I'm excited that I'm finally getting around to doing this. In case you're not familiar with the tag, it was started by YouTuber Samantha March, maybe like a couple months ago by now, maybe even longer than that. But it's just a bunch of questions that you can answer about all of the palettes, or I should say some of the palettes that you have in your collection. If you're interested in doing this tag, I will have a list of the questions in my description box if you want to use those, or you can just do a search on YouTube for eyeshadow palette tag. You'll see a bunch of videos come up. Some people have tweaked their list of questions here and there. I'm going to be tweaking mine just a little bit, but you can either use my questions or just do a search, or you can always come up with your own questions as well. So I found it very hard to do this video, and I don't even think that my palette collection is that extensive. So for those of you who have already done this tag and you have like 100+ palettes, I don't know how y'all did that, but I found it very hard to pinpoint some of the palettes that I wanted to use for some of the questions. But let's jump right into it so we can explore the palettes that I have in my collection. Okay, so the first question is, what is your newest eyeshadow palette? So I actually had another one pulled out for this, but this one just arrived in the mail like maybe 3-4 hours ago. This is the Colored Raine Lovelies palette. So I picked this up from Target, or I should say I got it delivered from Target. And I got this because I plan on doing a black-owned makeup brands haul and try-on video. So this is the palette that I plan on using in that video. If you want to see that video, make sure you have my notification bell turned on. I'm waiting for two more things to arrive in the mail. So I'm hoping that they arrive tomorrow so that I can have this video up a couple days after this one goes up. But anyway, that's why I got this palette. Like I said, I got it from Target. I think this and a couple other palettes from Colored Raine are exclusive to Target, but don't hold me on that. But I know that this one was not on Colored Raine's website. I could only find it in Target. So since I just got this couple hours ago, this is now officially the newest palette in my collection. And the next question is, what is your oldest palette? So I just moved maybe like going on 3 months ago now. So when I was packing up, I did take that opportunity to purge some makeup that I had before I packed it up and moved it over here. So had I done this video like, you know, back then, I would have had like much older palettes. But right now, the oldest one that I have is the BH Cosmetics Modern Mattes palette. I don't remember exactly when I bought this, but it was when I was relatively new to not necessarily makeup, but when I was really starting to get into learning how to do eyeshadow. And I bought this one because I just didn't really know like where to start. This one was cheap. I feel like I might have paid maybe $15 for it. And I said, you know, with this one, I can play around with a whole bunch of different colors. And then they have like some skin tone colors here. So I just figured like it was a really versatile palette that was relatively inexpensive, so I could use it to practice on. So I feel like I might have bought this maybe like in 2013 or something like that. But I did have like some smaller palettes, like the small ones that you can get from the drugstore from like CoverGirl, and I think I had one from Revlon that would have been older than this one. But like I said, I just purged some of the stuff in my collection, so as of now, this is definitely the oldest palette that I have. Next question is, what is your most expensive palette? And I actually have two that tie for this one. So the first one is the Lorac Mega Pro 4 palette. I'm sorry, but the packaging is kind of dirty. This one and the other one that I'm about to show you, they both cost $59. So that's what this palette looks like. I used to use this quite a bit when I first got it, but I haven't really picked it up in a very long time. But this one to me just has a lot of different options in it, but they have like, I don't know how to really put it, but like maybe like muted colorful options, if that makes sense. So I got a lot of use out of this when I first used it, which I was happy about because it cost $59. But like I said, I haven't used this one in quite a bit, but this costs $59. And my other $59 palette is the Fenty Beauty Moroccan Spice palette, and ironically enough, I have not used this palette once since I got it. I just got this in March from let me see if I can show you this without blinding you. So I just got this one in March from BoxyCharm. For those of you who have BoxyCharm Premium, the March box was actually a Fenty takeover box, so I got that through BoxyCharm, but I haven't even touched this palette since I got it. I was so excited about it but I don't know, for some reason I just haven't touched it. But anyway, this one also cost $59. Next question is, what is your cheapest palette? And again, I probably would have had a cheaper one like before I moved, but as of now, this is the LA Girl Eye Luxe Mesmerizing Palette in Tranquilize. So that's the packaging there, and that's what the shadows look like. I bought this palette specifically to do a get ready with me video the year that the Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl. So it's a very old video, well, not old, but old for me, but I'll link it so you guys can see it if you want to check it out. But I needed some like Eagles green eyeshadow, and I got this one specifically for this shade here. I feel like I used all three of these shades in that video, but this one looks kind of like Eagles green to me. And this one costs $5.99, and I'm pretty sure I got this from either like CVS. I think I got it from CVS. I think that's the only drugstore in my area that sells LA Girl actually. So yeah, I probably got it from CVS, but it costs $5.99. So next question is, what is your everyday palette? So for me, that would definitely be the Too Faced Chocolate Bonbons palette. This has really been like my everyday palette ever since I bought it, like up until like a couple months ago, I'm gonna say. And I do have another palette that I'm gonna show you a little bit later on that I think is more relative to another question. But this is the palette that I always pick up when, like, say if I just don't really feel like thinking about like what I want to do with my eyes, I just want to throw something on really fast, I'll usually grab this palette. I'll also maybe like 99% of the time I will travel with this palette. Even when I have like another palette that I'm thinking about traveling with, I always like put the, or I'll say most times I'll put this in my suitcase too, just because I'm so used to it. I know how the colors work. I know that all of the colors in here I have used at least once, and I just feel very comfortable with this palette. So this is definitely my everyday one. And then the next question is, what is your most colorful palette? And I really don't know what would be the most colorful between these two. So both of these are BH Cosmetics Festival palettes. I feel like this one might be from 2017, and then this one might be from 2018, but don't quote me on that. So this is the Weekend Festival palette. I used this quite a bit when I first got it. I loved playing around with the different colors, but then because I liked this palette so much, when they came out with the festival palette the following year, I was very excited about it. So this one is called the Color Festival palette. I was very excited about this, and I used it once and I didn't really like it. So let me show y'all side by side, because honestly, between the two of these, like, I don't know which one would be considered the most colorful. So these might be like a, can you see that? These might be like a tie for the most colorful. I definitely can tell you that I like this one better, but I don't think it's necessarily more colorful than this one over here. But these two are definitely the most colorful ones that I have. So the next question is, what is your smallest eyeshadow palette? So that's also going to be this LA Girl palette. Even some of the ones that I kind of threw away. Actually, no, I was going to say even out of the ones that I threw away when I moved, I feel like this one would have still been the smallest. But I feel like I did used to have like a little Almay palette. It was like three shadows, and it showed you like where to put each one on your eye. That might have been a little smaller than this, but anyway, right now this is the smallest palette that I have. And the next question is, what is your biggest palette? So my biggest one is the Morphe 39S palette. And for this thing to be so big, I will never forget, I was so excited about this because it's like a purple themed palette, like some pinks in there too. Pinks and purples are like two of my favorite colors for eyeshadow. So I was so, see, this thing is just so big, I gotta move over. I was so excited when I got this one, and I feel like I might have used it twice. And I feel like the second or maybe third time that I used it, I felt like I was kind of forcing myself to use it just because it was sitting around. It's so big and I just was ignoring it. This palette, I don't know, it just does not excite me the way that I thought it was going to. So unfortunately, I feel like this was a waste of money, especially for it to be so big, but you know. But yeah, this is definitely the biggest one that I own. All right, so the next question is, what is your palette with your favorite or best memory? So I know this is gonna sound like kind of cheesy to y'all, but I chose the NYX Perfect Filter palette in Gloomy Days. So I know it's a clear packaging, but let me just open it up so you can see it better. Now, I like learning about the weather. So I guess you could say like I like seeing like the atmosphere in action. I like learning about like how snowstorms start, what types of precipitation there are, like what's the difference between rain and sleet and snow. I like learning about all of that stuff. And actually when the weather report comes on the news, like I can just sit there and just watch it and just be so like tuned into the weather report. And I know most people are just like, is it gonna rain or not? Like I really want to know like what's going on with the weather. That was a notification on my phone. But anyway, when I saw this palette, I remember I saw it in Target and I looked at it and I said, oh, this looks like, I don't know, it looks like the weather. So I picked it up, I'm looking at it, and then I turn it around and what do you know, it's actually called the Gloomy Days palette. Like to me, it just looks like, I don't know, like a thunderstorm or a snowstorm or something like that. And that's the only reason I got this palette, because to me it looks just like the weather. So that is my favorite memory from a palette. I know that sounds kind of, I don't know, but is there anyone else out there who is a weather geek like me? Like I just love a good snowstorm, nothing crazy, but just something that, you know, makes it look kind of pretty outside, maybe like a foot of snow, something like that. I'm like a rare mid-Atlantic resident who loves a good snowstorm. So I know, sounds kind of crazy, but that's just me. So, okay, next question is, what palette is definitely worth the hype? So I feel like this one was kind of hard to like narrow it down to one, because I feel like I had quite a few palettes that were really hyped up, and then when I got them, I really liked them. But the one that I narrowed down to was the Jackie Aina palette by Anastasia Beverly Hills. So this one is really dirty because it has a lot of fallout, but this is what it looks like in case you're not familiar. This one was really hyped up because, in case you don't know who Jackie Aina is, she's a very popular black beauty YouTuber, and because of her presence on YouTube, when she announced that she was coming out with this palette, I mean, just everybody just went crazy. And I was one of those people who got it in the pre-sale. Like I was just sitting there constantly refreshing my Instagram to see when it was available, and I ended up getting it in the pre-sale, and I was so excited about it. When I got it and when I actually used it, I loved it. Everything down to like the packaging I really like. I feel like the shades are just perfect. They're meant to be like more pigmented for deeper skin tones, but it's still universal for, you know, any skin tone to use. And I just think she did a really good job on this palette, so I would definitely say that this one was worth the hype. Then the next question is a palette that was not worth the hype. And again, I have a few palettes that I feel like I was excited about it. They were hyped up. When I got it, when I tried it out, I was like, why is everybody so excited about this palette? So I chose one that I got my hands on kind of recently. This is the Too Faced Natural Matte Palette, and just like there was some other palette that I mentioned earlier, oh, the Fenty palette. I also got this one from BoxyCharm. So I feel like every single time Too Faced comes out with a new palette, it's always hyped up because Too Faced makes really good palettes. So when I found out that I was getting this in BoxyCharm, I was very excited about it because I have a few Too Faced palettes, and even though I have one that's my favorite, I feel like all the Too Faced palettes that I have, I really like them. So I was excited about this one too, but when I tried it, I was just totally disappointed. So this is what it looks like. Now I will say, even before I tried it, I could look at it and tell that there wasn't going to be like a whole lot that I could do with this, but I figured, you know, maybe I could use this for like, you know, an everyday palette if I just wanted to throw something simple on my eyes. I thought that the colors were going to blend out, or the shadows were going to blend out really nicely, and it was just going to perform like any other Too Faced palette that I have. To me, these colors were were just bland. They didn't blend well, and I just did not enjoy this palette. So I would say this is the one that was the most hyped up, that I was most disappointed in. The next question is, what is a favorite palette from a favorite brand? So this is also relatively new to me. One of my favorite makeup brands, hands down, is Fenty Beauty. I think Fenty Beauty is just very innovative. I think that they are very inclusive, and I just think that overall they have good performing products. Now every brand has like hits and misses, so yes, I have tried some things from Fenty that I wasn't too crazy about, as well as other people, but I think in general Fenty does a really good job of putting out a lot of good performing products that are inclusive rather to a wide range of skin tones. And I recently picked up 2 of the Snap Shadows, and my favorite is number 2, the Cool Neutrals palette. I know everybody's all into like the warm tones and stuff. I really love like cool colors like this, and I recently did a video where I just purchased like a bunch of Fenty makeup, so I did like a first impression video, and this was the palette that I put on my eyes, and I absolutely loved it, and I have used it a few times since then. So this is definitely one of my favorite, or probably, yeah, my favorite palette from Fenty. I don't have very many Fenty palettes. I have 2 of these and the Moroccan Spice palette, but just out of those 3, this is definitely my favorite. Next question is, what is your most used palette? So I would say the most used ever, like since I started doing eyeshadow, was definitely this one. Like I said earlier, this is my everyday palette. I travel with it all the time. This is the one that I would usually grab just to not really have to think about a look and just throw something on my eyes. I have used this like 1,000,001 times, I would say. However, recently, I would say maybe within like the past, I don't know, 4 or 5 months or so, I would say my most used palette recently is this one from Crowne Beauty, and I think this is called the Fuego palette, but there's no name on it. I'm pretty sure this one is called Fuego. So this is what this one looks like. And when I was deciding what to do with my eyes for this video, I definitely wanted to use a palette that I was going to talk about today. So this is the one that I have on my eyes right now. Lately, I have been grabbing this one, and I've been doing pretty much, I'll zoom you in so that you can see like what my eye looks like today. I've been pretty much doing like this eye look for going to work. Now that has stopped since we started working from home, but I would say like through, I don't know, maybe like mid-March or whenever we started working from home, I haven't really been doing my makeup every day. But prior to that, this is the palette that I've been using lately. So this is definitely my most used palette like ever, and then this one is my most used palette within like the past few months. So those were all of the questions on the tag. However, I decided to add my own question, which is a palette that you're thinking about buying. So I really want the new Pat McGrath Divine Rose 2 palette, and I can't even tell you, like, I have had at least one Pat McGrath palette in my online shopping cart at Sephora for like at least a year, and I just keep stalling on buying one just because of the price tag, even though I know based on what I see, what I hear people saying, that the palettes are a really good investment. But it's just like every time I go to buy something, I take it out of my cart, I make my purchase, and then I put it right back in my cart. And this one, the Divine Rose 2 palette, I have not been as excited about a Pat McGrath palette as I've been for this one. I really want to buy it, so I feel like I've said this before though. I was just about to say I feel like I'm gonna get it, but I've said it before and I didn't get it just because of the price tag. But yeah, that's one that I'm definitely thinking about buying. So those are all of the questions that I have for the eyeshadow palette tag. So let me know if you agreed with anything. Does anyone else out there really want the Pat McGrath palette, or did you already buy it? Do you agree with my hyped up palette being the one that is worth the hype, the Jackie Aina palette, and one that is not worth the hype? If you have this, let me know. Just let me know what you thought about the video in general. And again, if you do decide to do this video, please let me know in the comments so I can go and watch yours. So I really hope that y'all enjoyed the video. If you did, please let me know by giving me a thumbs up, and I hope to see y'all back for my next one. Until then, take care. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.